Every single time someone asks you, hey, what's up? What's going on? What's new? Talk about your show. Lead with it. Have that be the first piece of news you share with everyone all the time. Welcome to our new video in our show host series. I'm Christine Baird. I'm the owner of Worthful Media, and I want to give show hosts 3 tips for doing completely free marketing for their podcast or YouTube show that I've seen the greatest return on investment for. I have been privileged to talk to a bunch of experts in the industry who work with personal brand shows and seen the numbers that come about if you do a paid campaign and different marketing efforts that you put money into. And I've just not seen any option that I was really impressed with the return on investment on if you put dollars into paid marketing for a show. Not 100% of the time, not for everyone, but in most cases, it's pretty rare to figure out a way to put money behind marketing a show that goes a long way in a traditional advertising campaign. So if you're looking to market your show and you're the show host and you're a personal brand, I want to give you 3 of my favorite marketing tips that we share with all of our clients and a lot of friends who ask, because I think you can get a really good return on investment and you don't have to spend a bunch of money. So tip number 1 for show hosts. This is something you can do all by yourself for free. It just takes some of your time, which you could say time is money, but also you get a really great return on investment for this one. So I'm going to say it's worth your time. The number 1 thing I suggest to any show host who has a show that's 1 to 2 years old, less than a year or less than 2 years. I don't want you to count yourself out if your show is still less than 2 years old. Every single time someone asks you, hey, what's up? What's going on? What's new? Talk about your show. Lead with it. Have that be the first piece of news you share with everyone all the time. And you might think, Christine, I did that for a while, everyone knows. Actually, everyone does not know. It is so surprising to show hosts when I tell them, think through it. How many people in your audience actually see your Instagram posts? If you look at your analytics, you know very few of them are seeing them. How many people are opening your emails? Not all of them. How many people are you convinced know you have a show and you finally were catching up with them and they had no idea you had a show? You told them about it and they're like, you have a show? The truth is, there's a ton of different things that people are paying attention to. There's a very good chance that they don't know yet you have a show, or if they do know you have a show, they probably don't know what it's about, why you're passionate about it, what they can get out of it. You truly are the very, very best marketing team for your show in the first couple of years, you, the show host. And especially if you're a personal brand, which is what we specialize at with Worthful Media, it is going to go miles to be the biggest promoter of your show in the one-on-one interactions you have with everyone, people you know, people you don't know. It doesn't matter how much you think they know you have a show and what it's about and why you're passionate about it and why you're inviting them to listen. It doesn't hurt for them to hear it again. Even if you have a good friend who's heard you talk about your show 3 times, every time you talk about it, it's reinforcing to them wow, she's really passionate about this and thinks it's worth listening to and is putting in an A+ effort. I'm going to check it out. Think about how many times you've caught up with a friend and you ask them what they're going on and they share an idea with you, and then you ask them about it again a few months later and they're like, oh, what are you talking about? Yeah, I didn't go, but let me tell you about my new idea. That's what we're kind of used to, right? People having ideas and not really following through on them, especially if you're a creative type, which you might be as a personal brand. So if you keep talking about your show, you lead with it. It's the first thing people hear about when they ask you what's up. That signals that there is something worth investing in by them checking out your show. And you're not asking them to buy your product. That's not a bad thing to ask people to try your product if you're selling it, but there's a different energy if you keep talking about a product that people have to pay for, right? If you keep talking about a free offering you're making that anyone can listen to or watch, that's a pretty generous thing to lead with. And you don't know when it's going to be the right time for someone to check it out. So the more you talk about it, the better. You, personally you, one-on-one, in your DMs, in your email replies, in your social media comments, in your text messages, in your phone messages, in your voicemails, and you're catching up with friends at a birthday and a wedding. Talk about it. It's free. It's so effective. You're the best ambassador for your show, and your own passion and investment in it will rub off on the people that you are talking to, and they are way more likely to check out that show and tell a friend than if they just saw a post or a comment a couple of times. Okay, tip number 2. This tip is for any show host, no matter how long you've been podcasting. It could be 6 months, it could be 5 years. This is relevant. And it's going on a podcast tour, or you could even say a YouTube show tour. But the point of going on a podcast tour, and I'll tell you what that is if you don't know in just a moment, is that you have the opportunity as a show host to go talk about your show as a guest on other shows to audiences that are already consuming your kind of content. It's like the lowest hanging fruit people to share your show with because they already are listening to podcasts. Let's say you have a podcast and you're a guest on 5 other shows that are in a similar topic or industry or audience as yours. It is so likely that those audiences are going to check out your show because if they're enjoying listening to you on this podcast, they know how to go find your other show, especially when you tell them. They don't have to be taught how to look up a podcast, and they don't have to be convinced to start a new habit. They're already podcast listeners. The same thing goes for YouTubers, right? If you are guesting on someone's YouTube show and you're inviting people to come check out your YouTube show, YouTube people know how to go find new YouTube stuff, and they know how to subscribe, and they know how to vet it and check it out and put it in their rotation. Like, you don't have to train them on that. You don't have to convince them. It's so effective to go on a podcast tour or a YouTube show tour as a show host because you really are the only person who can do that, right? And you can lead with a lot of value. We'll do a whole other video on how to pitch yourself to be a guest on other shows. So subscribe to our channel because that's what we're giving you weekly, our show host tips if you're a personal brand. But it is extremely effective to convert, if you want to get like real markety about it, people who already listen to podcasts on your topic and in your niche. They're the ones listening to other shows in your space. So develop those relationships, go through people you already know, ask your friends who host podcasts in your space, ask for introductions, like do your homework and build the relationships to get on those shows when it's appropriate. Obviously, not every show host is going to say yes just because you reached out and asked and had some great pitch. Sometimes a show host is got other things going on. They're doing a different strategy with guests. They're not doing guests. They're only doing people that they handpick. But if you don't invite or offer to come on their show, and you don't know if they're open to it. And it can be the best marketing because you're getting in front of audiences that already like your style of content on the platform that you're on. Okay, tip number 3, which is also applicable no matter how young or old of a podcaster or YouTuber you are, is to do collaborations. And these are a little bit different than what we just talked about with doing a podcast tour where you're a guest on someone else's show. Collaborations can be any type of media with another creator. So maybe you do a collaboration on a blog post or a guest article or an email sequence or a podcast or a YouTube video. Maybe you collaborate on a live event or a retreat or a workshop or a masterclass. A collaboration is when 2 creators, I mean, it'd be cool if they were you and another podcaster, but it could be some other combo, who have a lot in common, who have a good vibe, who have the same values and the same interests and similar enough audience and topics that your audiences would be interested in what you're doing together, come together to create some new kind of content that neither one of you would make on your own. So you've seen this before. Sometimes YouTubers will do a collaboration video and it's kind of a combo of what both your audiences love. And you have a special chemistry because it's different than you being on your own. And so there's a new interesting take. And sometimes people will tune into a collaboration episode or video or event or speech that they wouldn't have necessarily tuned in if it was just one of you. Sometimes it's because you're together, and sometimes it's just because the audience is a fan of one or the other of you. But the same benefit applies as going on a podcast tour, where you're a guest on other people's shows. You are able to put yourself in front of an aligned, interested audience who maybe knows who you are or maybe doesn't, and share with them your genius and invite them to come check out your show and more of what you do. And you're offering part of your audience to do the same for your collaborator. And so it's a win for your audience to do something cool and new for them, introduce them to a cool new person. And it's a big win for you to be in front of your collaborators' audience. And honestly, when collaborations are done right, they're some of the coolest content. And you can't like magic this up and fake it. Like you have to have good vibes with your collaborator and you have to make good content for your audiences. So you have to be really strategic. But when it's done right, collaborations can be fire. And it's a really cool offering to everybody's audience. It does expose you to new audiences. And it also shows everyone who takes part of that content that you are a team player and that you have more to you than like just what that you're known for. And I think that's really powerful as a show host, because especially in your first couple of years of a show, you can feel like you're just pitching all the time and constantly telling people about it. And it feels really good to share and kind of put the focus on some other things, but still be marketing your show and still be inviting people to come listen and watch. So those are 3 of my absolute favorite ways to invite show hosts to market their own show for free that I have seen huge returns on investment come through when done right, versus pouring a bunch of money into campaigns that probably have a very low conversion rate or all kinds of other things you may have heard about. I'm not saying these are the only tactics, but these are 3 of my favorites. I love them because they're free. I love them because you, the show host, can do it completely yourself. Like you don't have to involve your production team or a bunch of other people. And you'll get a huge return on investment if you commit and put in a good effort. So those are my tips for today. 3 of my favorite marketing tips for show hosts. I absolutely recommend you subscribe to our channel because we'll have more coming out soon. We post weekly on our channel. And feel free to scroll through the rest of the series. If you're new and just subscribing now, we've put up multiple videos this year on our show host series, specifically tips to help show hosts become better and market their shows and grow them and get paid and do all the stuff we want to do as personal brands in the YouTube and podcast space. So I'll leave it there. I hope you got a lot of value. Leave me a comment if you did. Tell me if you want to go deeper on any of these topics, and I will record another video for you.